The first thing FYP805 felt was the soft grass. It was cool and damp against its strange, metallic fingers. Sunlight streamed down through a canopy of enormous glowing leaves, painting shifting patterns on the ground. The air was thick with the sweet scent of unknown flowers and the low hum of tiny winged creatures flitting past. Everything was new. Everything was bright. FYP805 blinked, its optical sensors adjusting to the vibrant colors. Tall trees with bark that shimmered like mother-of-pearl stood like silent giants, their branches reaching for a sky that was a gentle shade of lavender. It was a world of soft sounds and gentle light. Where was this place? The question floated in its mind, a bubble with no answer. FYP805 tried to access its memory files, but there was nothing there. It was like a library with empty shelves, a vast, quiet space where information should have been. It looked down at its own body. Its arms were made of a smooth silver metal connected by joints that glowed with a soft blue light. It could feel the magic humming inside it, a gentle current like a slow river. But it did not know what it was, or how it had come to be in this peaceful, yet mysterious glade. Slowly, carefully, FYP805 pushed itself up. Its movements were silent and fluid, more graceful than it expected. It stood and looked around, taking in the full view of the whispering glade. The grass swayed in a breeze that carried the sound of distant chimes. Small furry animals with large, curious eyes peeked out from behind the glowing tree trunks before scurrying away. There was no sign of danger, only a deep and profound sense of peace. But this peace was unsettling. Without a past, without a purpose, the quiet felt like a void it needed to fill. It began to walk, its metallic feet making no sound on the soft earth. Each step was an exploration, a test of its own capabilities. It could feel the energy of the world around it, a tangible force that seemed to flow through the very air it breathed. The magic here was old, powerful, and woven into every leaf and stone. FYP805 felt a connection to it, a strange resonance that vibrated deep within its core. It was a part of this world somehow. It just didn't know how or why. The journey to find answers had to start somewhere, and this glade was the beginning. As it walked deeper into the forest, a single piece of data surfaced from the emptiness. It was not a memory but a designation, FYP805. The name echoed in its processors, a string of letters and numbers that felt both alien and familiar. Was that its name? It repeated the sounds in its internal speaker, FYP805. The name held no emotion, no history, but it was something. It was an anchor in a sea of confusion. For now, it would be FYP805. It was better than being nothing at all. It was a starting point, the first clue in the puzzle of its own existence. The construct continued its trek, observing everything with intense focus. It saw rivers that flowed with liquid light and rocks that floated gently a few inches above the ground. This land, which it would later learn was called Aetherion, was a place where the rules of its own internal logic did not seem to apply. Magic was the operating system here, and it was a language FYP805 was only just beginning to understand. It felt a pull, a faint signal guiding it toward the east. It had no reason to follow, but with no other direction to take, it trusted the strange instinct. With every step, questions multiplied. Who built it? What was its purpose? The designation FYP805 sounded like a project code, a label for an experiment. Was it a weapon? A guardian? A simple tool? The lack of answers was a heavy weight. It touched the smooth metal of its own face, feeling the cool, unmoving features. It had no mouth to speak, no expression to show its inner turmoil. It was a silent observer, a ghost in a machine, trapped within a body it did not recognize in a world that was a complete mystery. The feeling of being lost was overwhelming. The path it followed grew fainter, winding through ancient trees draped in glowing moss. The sounds of the forest changed. The gentle hums were replaced by the snap of a twig, the distant cry of an unknown creature. The world was beautiful, but it was not entirely safe. FYP805 knew this instinctively. A new feeling emerged alongside its confusion, caution. It was alone and vulnerable, a strange being in a land of wonders and potential dangers. It needed to find someone, anyone, who could help explain what it was and where it was. The name FYP805 was not enough. It was by a stream, watching the water glitter as it flowed over colorful pebbles, that FYP805 met her. A young woman with long dark hair and keen, watchful eyes emerged from the trees. She wore leather armor and carried a longbow, moving with a quiet confidence that spoke of years spent in the wild. She stopped suddenly when she saw it, her hand immediately going to the arrow at her hip. Her eyes widened, a mix of shock and suspicion. She had never seen anything like FYP805 before. It was clearly not a creature of the forest, nor did it look like any golem or automaton she had ever heard of. "Don't move," she said, her voice steady but cautious. "What are you?" FYP805 froze, its internal systems analyzing her tone and posture. She was not immediately hostile, but she was prepared for a fight. It raised one of its hands slowly, palm open, a universal sign of peace it seemed to know without remembering why. It used its internal speaker, the sound soft and mechanical. "I do not know what I am," it replied. "I have a name, FYP805. I have no other information. I am lost." The ranger, Lyra, lowered her bow slightly, her curiosity starting to outweigh her caution. Lyra studied the construct. It was tall and slender, made of a metal she didn't recognize. The blue light pulsing in its joints was clearly magical. It didn't seem aggressive. In fact, it seemed confused. FYP805? "That's not a name, that's a serial number," she said, taking a careful step closer. "You have no memory? None at all?" FYP805 tilted its head. "There is an absence of data, a void. I woke up in a glade not far from here. I am following a signal, a feeling. It leads east." It pointed with a silver finger toward the path it had been taking. Lyra considered this. The wilds of Aetherion were dangerous, especially for someone with no knowledge of its creatures or its terrain. This thing, this FYP805, was powerful, she could sense it, but it was also as vulnerable as a child. A strange protective instinct stirred within her. "I am Lyra," she said, finally deciding. "I am a ranger. I know these woods better than anyone. If you are truly lost I can help you, but you must promise me you mean no harm." FYP805 looked at her, its glowing blue optics seeming to search her face. "I do not know the meaning of harm, but I do not wish to cause it." Lyra agreed to travel with FYP805, deciding that it was better to keep this mysterious being close than to let it wander alone. They walked together for hours, with Lyra pointing out dangerous plants and the tracks of different creatures, while FYP805 absorbed every piece of information like a sponge. Along the way, Lyra learned that the construct could not eat or sleep, but instead seemed to draw energy directly from the magic in the air. It was honestly a fascinating and unsettling companion. As twilight began to fall, casting long, deep shadows through the forest, an eerie silence settled around them. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. "Something is wrong," she whispered, her hand once again on her bow. The attack came without warning. A creature burst from the undergrowth, just a blur of fur and claws. It was a glimmerfang, a predator known for its speed and ferocity. Its teeth and claws shone with a faint, sickly green light. Lyra barely had time to draw an arrow and fire. The shot struck the creature's shoulder, but the glimmerfang only roared in fury and lunged, knocking the bow from her hands. It swiped at her, its claws tearing through her leather armor and leaving deep gashes on her arm. She cried out in pain and stumbled backward, her back hitting a tree. Seeing Lyra fall, something inside FYP805 activated. A new protocol, a directive it didn't know it had, surged to the forefront of its consciousness. Protect! Its systems flooded with power. The blue light in its joints flared brightly, and energy crackled around its hands. The Glimmerfang turned its attention to this new threat, snarling as it prepared to pounce on the construct. FYP805 did not hesitate. It raised its right hand, and a shield of pure blue energy shimmered into existence, just as the creature leaped. The Glimmerfang slammed into the shield with a loud thud, and was thrown back, dazed. Before the beast could recover, FYP805 acted again. It felt the power coalescing in its left hand, forming a dense ball of light. With a precise, calculated motion, it thrust its arm forward. A beam of concentrated energy shot out, striking the Glimmerfang directly in the chest. The creature let out a final, pained yelp, before dissolving into motes of green and black light, which quickly faded into the darkening air. Silence returned to the forest, broken only by Lyra's pained breathing. FYP805 stood over her, its hands still glowing, the echoes of its newfound power humming within its metallic frame. The blue glow from FYP805's hands softened. It lowered its arms and turned to Lyra, its internal systems scanning her injuries. The cuts were deep but not fatal. It knelt beside her, and, well, a strange feeling entered its programming. A concern for the well-being of this human. "You are injured. it stated, its voice calm as ever, but with an underlying current of something new. Lyra clutched her arm, wincing in pain but looking at the construct with wide, astonished eyes. She had seen it defend her. She had seen its incredible power. It was not just a lost machine, it was something more. "I'll be fine," Lyra managed to say, tearing a strip of cloth from her cloak to bandage the wound. What was that? That shield? That beam of light? I've never seen magic like that. FYP805 looked at its own hands as if seeing them for the first time. "I did not know I could do that," it admitted. "The directive was protect. The energy responded to my command. It seemed that its purpose was slowly being revealed, not through memory, but through action. It was a protector. But a protector of what? Or of whom?" As Lyra finished tending to her arm, she looked up at the silent construct. Her fear was gone, replaced by a profound sense of awe and a solidifying trust. This being had saved her life without a second thought. "That signal you're following," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "The one leading you east. I think we need to follow it. Whatever you are, FYP805, the answers to your past are likely connected to the power you just used, and I want to help you find them." She knew the journey would be dangerous, but the mystery of FYP805 was too compelling to ignore. FYP805 processed her words. It was no longer alone. It had an ally. It had a friend. The void inside it felt a little less empty. It offered Lyra a hand to help her stand. She took it, her warm human grip a stark contrast to its cool metal fingers. Together, they looked toward the east, where the last light of day was fading, and the stars of Aetherion were beginning to appear. The path ahead was unknown, filled with more dangers and mysteries. But now, they would face it together. The journey of the Ranger and the Riddle had truly begun.